All right, welcome to Lesson 5. We have come to the fifth and final lesson of Module 1 on diet. You've hung in there. Hope the information has been super helpful for you. And we're closing out our Module 1 with the topic of food freedom. No matter where you are in your health profile, we don't want food to control us. We don't want to have cravings and addictions to food or using food as coping for stress that really God never designed food to be. So we talk about food freedom. What does that look like? How does that apply to our lives as we close out this lesson on diet? So what is food freedom? Sometimes you start with what it's not. And it's the dismissal of God's design and a license to fulfill all of our own flesh food desires. Really, food freedom is not like, let's eat whatever we want. Let's indulge in all of our cravings for empty foods. Let's use food as just a taste pleasure only, forgetting all the other benefits that food provide. It's not a reason for eating whatever we want. It's not a reason for eating whenever we want. It's not a reason for releasing of the responsibility of taking care of our body. So that's not what food freedom is talking about. It's not really God's way of saying food doesn't matter. We're past the law. We can eat whatever we want. Food freedom is not agreement with the world's philosophy of food. If you're to eat a whole food, nutrient-dense diet, sometimes you're having to go counterculture. Sometimes it's not as convenient because all the foods that are super convenient at our fingertips are the drive-thrus and the unhealthy options that we have even at the grocery store. We can grab and go. So food freedom, what if it's not the dismissal? It's not the dismissal of God's design and a license to fulfill everything we want to eat. I mean, we think of freedom as, man, I can do whatever I want. I can eat whatever I want. That's what the Bible in the church age says. That's not what food freedom is about. So what is food freedom about? It's the same thing it is when we are connected to God through Jesus Christ in faith. We have freedom from sin. We have freedom to make the right choices. So it's really the power to make the food choices based on God's purposes. We actually want or crave the healthy foods. Food is a source of celebration. It's no longer a source of guilt. Food connects us to other people. It doesn't separate us from people. It's our way of eating that glorifies God. It's God's design and honored in what we eat. His purposes for food are lived out. Food no longer controls us. So it's not that we never eat a donut. Food freedom is the ability to have food fulfill the purposes that God intended it to do. So what does that look like in principle? Faith-based, a food-free living is literally letting go of empty foods. I don't really need them. I don't need them in my life. Foods that are empty, I'm meaning that have no nutritional value. They just supply some level of quick pleasure to our taste buds or mood or feeling, comfort, or emotional connection. Let go of empty foods that have no nutritional value. It's craving whole nutrient-dense foods, and believe me, as we've worked with clients, their taste buds change. Their actual desire, their internal mechanism and cravings can change when we alter and really rebalance the metabolics. It's eating aligned with God's purposes of regeneration, of even resurrection, death to life foods. It's eating in alignment with His identification and dominion. Those purposes for food that we've highlighted in the framework are really eating aligned with God's purposes. So intuitive eating, you've maybe heard a little bit about intuitive eating. It's like listening to our bodies. Do we want something hot? Do we want something cold? Is something heavy or something light? Intuitive eating is eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full. Thinking about the food, praising God and being thankful during mealtime. Using mealtime as a worship, using mealtime as a way to connect with people. So intuitive eating is a broad concept that people apply in many different ways, but it's a stage of food freedom that we can move through and enjoy the freedom of intuitive eating. And then 5 is gracious hospitality. So going beyond intuitive eating, these 1 through 4 are all kind of about us. But number 5 is how do we use food as ministry? Through gracious hospitality. That's food freedom too. And be able to share the information you have through making super healthy, nutrient-dense meals people can enjoy, and you can share that with others. So back to our biblical framework. So I've added, here we go, our levels of nutrition here. And we've added this 4th level across the scriptural 7 time frames. So it's so interesting. In the garden nutrition and creation and design, it's whole food, seed-based foods. That's level 1, whole nutrient-dense foods. Then we have the fall and the curse, and that brought forth death, or really degeneration, physical degeneration. And that's where we had such a need to start sprouting grains and fermenting foods and adding grass-fed and pasteurized animals and animal foods to be nutrient-dense, because the ground was cursed and plants became not enough. That carried on through the flood and through this death phase. And in the law, God identified himself with a specific national people group and a specific landmass and issued the governing governing system of the law and clean eating and sustainable meats. And that's a therapeutic level of nutrition. That's the law. A lot of times when we work with clients, we're eliminating some foods. These are yeses, these are nos, and it's a kind of a law, do's and don'ts stage of nutrition. But unless you go through these stages, then it's really hard to know what intuitive eating looks like. So a lot of people want to jump to the gospel and say, God loves you, has a wonderful plan for your life, and they miss the fall and the curse, and they miss we have a law to abide by. They miss all of the do's and don'ts in an attempt to jump straight to the gospel, just like we do with nutrition, jump straight to intuitive eating without really ever going through the therapeutic process if needed, or without ever going through what a whole food nutrient-dense diet looks like. And then that intuitive eating stage carries through the gospel and the church age, and even the kingdom and restoration. This is more of the food freedom, but sometimes we have to go through the law first. And it's not that we're following the law or subject to the law as Christians on the spiritual side of things, as much as the law is a tutor. The law is a guidepost. The law tells us some do's and don'ts that could definitely benefit, knowing that at the end of the day, it's Christ who set us free from the law of sin and death. It's Christ who fulfilled the law. It's not that the law is void. It's been accomplished. So that's the same thing with therapeutic nutrition. We've gone through the healing phase. We've gone through the detox phase. Now we're able to maintain and intuitively eat because we can trust our instincts. We can't trust our intuition until we've gone through some of these previous phases in nutrition. So now our bodies are accurately giving us the cues that we really need. So in our journey of health, this is a journey map. Where are you on your journey? We want to know, have we acknowledged God's design for food? That's the first step. God, you're the creator. This is where the planet has come from. This is where we see all the wonder and all the beauty on the globe and all the magnificent food choices that we have. We're not like animals who eat just the basic 2 or 3 things. We have the whole spectrum of foods to enjoy, and you gave that to us, giving God credit, acknowledging him for that. Then understanding the effects of the curse on our food. How did the food degenerate too? It was life, it was plants, and the animals eat the plants, and then we eat both. We're physically designed to eat both, between even the design in our teeth and the acidic levels of our stomach. We're designed to eat both plants and animals. So understanding the effects of the curse and the supporting sustainable food sources and this version of clean in our modern world. And then following a diet law, so to speak, the natural laws that govern whole food nutrition that focus on clean eating, kind of going through maybe that therapeutic phase if you need it, or a very concentrated more do's and don'ts in nutrition so that you can work through that phase to food freedom, which is the power to make food choices based on God's purposes. All right, so we come to recap the whole diet lesson. I hope you've learned a lot. It's based on Christian faith-based principles. Hopefully we've eliminated some nutritional confusion. We've walked through history and a little bit of science in this course in Module 1, and how to personalize your own plan, and a quick look at what food freedom can mean to you. So we'll see you in Module 2 of Rest.